Hi, I'm Chelsea.
And I'm Julie.
We're moms and we're super basic. We've got a special guest, Allie, today. We're going to grab our drinks and get ready to chat. Cheers.
Cheers.
So today is Friday, December 11th. I can't believe we're here already, but with today's episode, we have a special guest, Allie. So we're just going to give her a minute to introduce herself and tell us all about her and what she's here to talk about.
Oh my gosh. So in a nutshell, I'm a mom. I have a 5-year-old son. I'm a writer. I'm a business owner. And also a native Vermonter. So that pretty much means I love trees and maple syrup, not necessarily in that order. And I am actually recently a first-time author. And so I'm here today to talk about my book, Dear Universe, I Get It Now, Letters on the Art and Journey of Being Brave and Being Me. And if you want to know like the dirt and the skinny, I'm a recovering middle child. I'm a feminist. And definitely want to be superhero. And I have a serious guilty pleasure for Hunt a Killer subscription boxes.
You skipped over two of my favorite points there, though, because
I love to mix peanut butter and Nutella. That's a true story. And I've recently been encouraging my son to do the same, which is a terrible, terrible habit.
I think call it like Reese's peanut butter cup spoon.
Totally hate that, but yeah, no, spoon for each hand. And he's like, just wears it. It's a mess. And definitely could drink my weight in maple lattes.
Julie, didn't you have like a maple latte obsession a little while back?
Every day. That's my go-to drink. And the last time I was in New Jersey, I asked for a maple latte at like a coffee shop in Haddonfield, and they were like, we don't do that. And I was like, oh, fine, caramel.
The maple syrup here.
Actually,
like, don't put Aunt Jemima's in that.
Yeah, like last spring I was in, when you could travel, I was at a live event in St. Louis, Missouri. And I walked down the street and I was about to say maple latte. And then I like pulled back and I was like, no, you can go ahead of me, because I had to like skim the menu to like make sure that was even a thing, because I realized I was in the Midwest. And I was like, what are they going to think about the maple? Because
yeah, so I gave up refined sugar over a year ago. So I just put maple in everything, like my tea, my coffee, whatever.
Yeah. Perfect.
Now, why would you do, and this is total like probably ignorant question, why would you do maple over just honey? Is it because it's like
in tea or in coffee? Because honey and coffee sounds weird, no?
Yeah, but a lot of people use honey as like a natural sweetener. Is that just because like the access to maple, or because it's like good because it's locally sourced, or what?
Well, so yes, all of those things, but also maple in black tea makes it taste like sweet tea, as opposed to like honey in it gives a different kind of flavor, I think.
Like sweet, like black tea with honey.
Yeah, it tastes like black tea with honey, exactly. Yes.
Interesting. Well, thanks for being here, Allie. We're super excited to hear all about your book and your quick takes on all the celeb gossip that we cover typically. But to start with, what are you drinking? So Julie, shocker, barefoot Moscato.
Though I will say that Jill, who is Chelsea's sister, and if you guys don't follow her at, JillianRosado.com, I think, she posted a like holiday mule this week that I want to try, but I also don't want to go out and buy the ingredients. So I'm having a little bit of a struggle because I want it, but I don't want to make it myself.
Wait, is this with gin, or what did she make it with? I missed it.
Do I have to look it up?
No, I'm just, if you don't know, it's fine.
I know there was ginger beer in it, and I don't have ginger beer at my house.
Okay.
So.
Gotcha. You don't just have that stocked up and like,
You'd think I would these days. Like, I love mules. So, but no, so I just finished off my mega bottle of Barefoot.
Uh-oh.
What does that mean? What are you going to do?
Go to bed at 9.
All right, that's fair.
And Allie, looks like you're drinking one of my favorites.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so it's Cupcake Prosecco. And honestly, I don't even know where I got it. Like, I think somebody gifted this to me when the book came out, and I was like, hey, I'm busting that out. It's delicious.
Well, we're super excited to celebrate with you and pop some champagne.
I'm glad I did that ahead of time because the pop
Yeah.
was definitely very dangerous.
And I got the idea in my head a couple days ago about a White Russian, and I used to drink these all the time. Like, we would go out when Julie was still in New Jersey, we would go out in AC, and I would be the person that go up to the bar and be like, White Russian, please. Like, not your typical club bar drink.
No, how do you not get sick from that? So
I
much
don't know.
milk.
I downed them. So I'm not going to say that I'm returning to that lifestyle, but I'm just going to like sip one tonight. So I have a White Russian, but I did vanilla vodka instead of regular.
Did you follow a recipe or did you just know how to make it?
Loosely, because I didn't know how much vodka or Kahlua you were supposed to put in them. So
There's a guess.
So yes, so I followed.
It might be a White Russian. It might also be a Chelsea Russian.
We'll have to see by the end.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so we've all got our drinks, and now we don't normally do this because we don't normally have an author with us, but we're going to jump into 5 questions for Allie. So the first one we wanted to know was, what was the process of writing a book like?
Well, I could answer that in a lot of different ways. Painful comes to mind. That's one. That's one word. Gosh, I think, what's weird about this book is with the process of the book, that is that I started it in a much different time in terms of like political climate, global climate. It was like pre-COVID by several months. And so there was a lot of like joy in writing it in the beginning. There was always joy in writing it, but when we got closer to going through different revisions and different drafts and the book was getting closer to like coming to fruition, that was when kind of like everything went completely sideways. And so it was like all of a sudden the book's timeline was like thrown off by like 6 months. And it was like trying to figure out how to finish it and get it going again in the midst of the changing like daycare shutting down, and all of a sudden business had to operate differently because daycares had shut down. And then it was like I really cared about this project, but it was like, when do you fit it in? Like, mom mode is always your full-time job, number one. And then being a business owner, that had to come second, because if I wasn't working, the bills weren't getting paid. So it was like it was this passion project. It was really, really exciting. And then it was a little bit stressful, and then it was exciting again. And so it's been kind of it's been a roller coaster for sure. I mean, I had a good framework. I was organized. I kind of knew what I was writing. So it wasn't really so much like, what do I do next? It was finding the time in the midst of all of like the life circumstances that were kind of happening around it.
Yeah.
And did you have, like, when you talked about your framework, was it like, these are the topics I want to touch on with each letter? Like, did you kind of go through it like that? Or how did you come up with like every letter that you were going to write, or what you wanted to cover?
So the book started off super, super vague, and like just this vision that came to me in the early morning hours. It was like a REM cycle dream. And it was just this black and white composition notebook cover. That was it. None of the planet, celestial kind of stuff, just black and white. And then the words, "Dear Universe." That was it. And I was like, okay, I like that idea. I have no idea what that means, but all right. So I kind of just like let it marinate for a couple of weeks. And it was like, it kind of stacked on top of each other until finally I got to this place where I was like, oh, this is a book of letters to the universe. Okay, cool. But then I was like, but what am I writing to the universe? I could say 1,500,000 things, right? Because we have so many, those big philosophical life questions that we could be asking to that higher power, or, whatever you believe. And I was like, I got to drill that down, like, because people don't want to know every single thought and question that I have in my head for a higher power about like life and death and serious bullshit. So I was like, all right. So I basically just started with Post-it notes, and I wrote down on a Post-it note every single like memory that stood out to me, like just like stream of consciousness popcorn, like, oh, there was that time in the playground. Oh, there was that time in the backyard. Oh, you know, and I had like this massive, like one of those giant Post-it note sheets that you hang on the wall, just like filled with like Post-it notes with like phrases and keywords that would mean nothing to anybody else. And then I was like, okay, I got that far. And then I pared that down and I said, okay, well, how many of these are all about relationships, or how many of these are all about writing, or how many of these are all about, you know, whatever. And when I started to do that and kind of categorize based on theme, I then started to realize like, oh, there is a lot here about like voice and expression and being authentic and following your dreams. And I was like, I think that's what this book wants to be. Like, and so then I just stripped out anything that didn't have to relate to that. And once I got down to that focus, then it was a matter of chronological order. Like, oh, this thing happened when I was little. This thing happened over here as an adult. What was interesting though was that once I started to actually draft the letters, like I couldn't necessarily tell the whole story in a linear fashion, right? So when you read the book, one letter might have like a touch point when I was a kid, but then a touch point when I'm a mom, and then like a touch point when I was like, you know, in middle school or something. So while the letters like mainly are positioned in this chronological way, the individual letter themselves can kind of cross times and barriers. And I didn't expect that after I had kind of mapped out this perfectly chronological table of contents, right? Once you start drafting, it's like all bets are off.
Allie, I have another follow-up question because wine. Who would you say that this book is perfect for?
Women for sure, but I think women who have kind of a knowing that they're meant for something more, or they've always had this inkling that there's something else they should be pursuing and just don't know how to take that step. Because I think that like there's a lot of us who are dreamers, but we can be dreamers and we can do nothing about it. But I think there's a certain person who's like, no, I really want to act on that internal knowing that I have, that I've got more skills to give, or more, or, you know, more gifts that I could be using, or a greater purpose than what I'm doing right now. And they're just looking for like the little oomph to like tell them that like they're not wrong, that little flickering inside, or that gut reaction, like, no, there is something there. Like that's, you know, that's your intuition speaking to you. Like, you know, you do know that it's not make believe, even if somebody's told you like, you know, it's not practical, it's not realistic. And it can be really hard to overcome those kind of mental barriers or doubting beliefs or the external forces. But definitely for women with that kind of internal knowing, that spark, that passion, and they're just trying to figure out, okay, what's my next move.
Awesome. I've read the book and I would agree with that. I think that
excellent. And that's even with wine. Perfect.
So how did it feel when you finally finished?
Oh my gosh. You know, it was funny. It was like every draft was like overcoming a hurdle. Like, and so it was like when I finished the first draft, I was like, like skies parted, sunbeam down, you know, and it didn't even matter that there was like umpteen, however many drafts after that, because finishing the first one, I was like, oh my gosh, I did it. I couldn't remember the last time I'd finished a whole draft. So that was like a really big deal. And then when I got to the next draft and it was like in a new phase of like going to new readers, then I was like kind of panicked because the second draft was going to people who are going to endorse, and my writing coach, she was basically going to tell me whether or not like I nailed the story arc or not. And I was like, oh, like probably shouldn't be sending this draft out to like both of those people, you know, because if the story arc is crap, like who's going to endorse it? And so the second like finished draft, it was really trepidatious. I was like just like gritting my teeth, waiting for feedback, like thinking that first wave liked it, second wave was going to hate it. And each time I sent out a draft to a new wave of readers, it was getting such overwhelming feedback that I was like, oh my gosh, I think I have something really special here. But it was really hard to say that out loud because it's like being a mom. Where you're like, my bundle of joy is the best bundle of joy. I'm not biased, right? And so I was like, I'm pretty sure that it's special. People are telling me it's special, but I don't think I should probably say that out loud because maybe like that's wrong. So getting to the other side at the very end when like consistently it was getting really wonderful feedback, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm doing it and it's going to be great and it's going to be awesome. And I was just like, it was definitely like the tingly sensation of just getting to like the top of a roller coaster. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so terrified. I'm so excited all at once.
Awesome. So what was your favorite story or letter? Because they're letters, in case people haven't figured that out yet.
In case the title doesn't give it away. Oh my gosh, my favorite story or letter. Well, I have to say that there's a real soft spot in my heart for the letter about trees and the letter about Ninja Turtles, because every time I read those chapters, I laugh out loud. Like I've always been my like favorite comedian, but I just they're joyful, they're innocent. Nothing shitty has happened yet. So you're like, oh, like this is this little girl that's in the woods, or this is a little girl that's like booming imagination. And but then there's also that like snarky older narrator that can be like, wait, what? Like, what were you doing as a child, making out with the trees and, you know, writing silly stories and bossing the boys around? So
no, I'm going to agree with you though, because I thought the trees one was really good as a mom reading it, because you want your kids to have that type of like childhood. And it's so hard these days with all of the technology to just have the kids like out back and play and like talk to the trees, but they want to be on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
The trees one for me, it kind of reminded me of when I was little and my sister, Jillian Rosado, that we were just talking about, told me that Santa wasn't real. And it kind of like broke that picture in your head that your imagination and like everything that you have like created, that story you've created, like it's kind of like broke that for you, you know?
Yeah, magic gone. Right.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? So like, I feel like when, was it your cousin? Was the boy,
yeah, my cousin. Right.
Your cousin had said like, you know, what are you doing? Like, why are you talking to trees and stuff like that? It was like, no, why are you ruining this for her? You know, like this is her world she's created. So like for me, I was like, I remember that feeling when she told me that. And I was like, and it was like right then, as soon as I read that, I was like, yes, that's what I felt too. Like right then and there, it was like, there was no turning back from that.
No. You know, it's funny that you just said that. It made me think like around the same time that happened. It was also when I realized I was like, well, if I was too old to talk to trees and like have an imagination and play outside or whatever, I was obviously also too old to be completely obsessed with my American Girl doll. She was like my best friend, and that's not to say I didn't have actually human children that were friends with me, but like I was super attached to this American Girl doll. She basically had her own bedroom inside of my bedroom, and she went everywhere with me, including like hotel pools. And like I was just like I just created this little world for her as well, and it was like the exact same time. It was like that I was like packing up, like you know, going out barefoot and, you know, hanging out in the trees was like the same time that like all the American Girls doll stuff got packed away, you know? It was just, it's like, it's really weird. And it's also interesting that I felt like, you know, after that, it was like the hard stuff started to come. Right. And that kind of happens in the book, right? After that, it's like, then there's like really dealing with some like tough shit, you know, after there's not that, island of safety or the ability to just be innocent a little bit longer. And definitely back to Julie's point about being a mom, you know, now I look at it and I think 12 wasn't that old. Right? Like 12 wasn't that old, really, you know, and kids grow up so fast. And even my 5-year-old son, like some of the conversations we're having, I'm like, oh my God, did we have to have those conversations when I was 5? I don't remember having those conversations when I was 5, although parenting is also different generation to generation. And what you talk about is different.
My 6-year-old asked me last night how many times me and Daddy did sex.
Oh man, what?
True story. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So your response.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Yeah, so just like, I don't know, you know, I want to protect him and I want to keep him small and safe and just like, be you, kid. Like, because adulting will happen soon enough, and it's not all that it's cracked up to
1
be.
star, would not recommend.
Yeah, exactly.
So Allie, after you finished the book, was there any story that you wish you'd included?
Oh man. Well, I can say that I feel pretty good about the stories that I included, but I can say that there was a letter that had not been written and nearly got missed altogether until the very last draft. And that was the letter about my miscarriage. And I think there was a part of me during the first however many drafts and the first however many months I was working on the book that I wasn't ready to talk about it. But when I stood back from it from a writer perspective, from a craft perspective, and I was getting ready to kind of like button up this final draft, I was like, there is a huge thing that happened to me here in my adult and mom life that can't go unsaid. How could I not talk about this traumatic experience that, you know, happened in line with the pending separation and then divorce? And it's not to say that that caused the other, right? But it was like, it was this huge gap in the chronology. And I was like, I can't skip it. There's no skipping it. And I was also thinking, like, I spent this whole chapter on what a wonderful experience it was to become my son's mom. And yet I wasn't giving any attention, any honoring to the child that didn't make it into my arms. And so I was like, I can't talk about how wonderful it is to be a mom and then not mention that I had that chance a second time. Mm-hmm. And so while I was like, oh my gosh, am I really going to do this? I felt so good after I included it. And I really did feel like at that point, the manuscript for this particular focus and this particular theme was done. And I felt really proud, I guess, of putting myself out there. Not that I hadn't already put myself out there, because there's a lot of stuff in here, but miscarriage is one of those things, like a lot of other women's experiences, that aren't talked about a lot and not talked about openly. And my whole thing is about being brave, right? And being authentic and owning your truth and owning your story and paving the way for other people. And so I was like, well, shit, if I'm going to tell other people to do it, I better go all in, because what do I have to lose? I've already put everything else out on the page. There can't be anything else, you know?
I'm so glad that you did include it, because I feel like for so long that's been something that's like taboo, like you don't talk about it. Right. And now just recently it seems like a lot of really high profile people are like coming out with their experiences, like Chrissy Teigen. And then just like a week or two ago, like Meghan Markle talked about her loss. So it's something that needs to be talked about, because women, when they suffer like silently, they don't get the help they need, which is a really scary thing. So making it something that is okay to talk about is really important.
Yeah, sure. For sure.
Yeah. All right.
So what is next then after Dear Universe? Is there any other books or writings coming out from you?
So so one thing that I need to now commit to is like more regular blogging on ayberthiaume.com. But for book projects, I have so many things that are started. And actually this book, when it was put in front of my writing coach, she was like, I kind of feel like I Get It Now is like going to be a franchise. Like this book and this style and like a book of letters is like so fun. It's not really overly done. It's a fresh way of like approaching personal narrative and memoir. And
it also made for like a really easy read too, I feel like.
Yeah, totally accessible. Also totally doable as the writer. I felt so comfortable writing in this style. Like it didn't seem as overwhelming as other book projects that I've started. And I think that was because I could look at each letter as a bite-sized story, right? Rather than like this huge massive thing with all these interconnected pieces. And that's not to say that the book doesn't interconnect and stories and letters don't, work together, but you could easily, I think, pick up the book, read a letter, put it down, and like, you've got what you need in that one little compact letter. So I've thought about other iterations of books of letters. So I've got one in my mind that's like, I've always been wanting to write a memoir about my failed relationships, like in my earlier years leading up to marriage. So it would stop around there because I've got some stories. And so I was thinking maybe it might be like, Dear Ex-Boyfriend, I get it now, or Dear Ex-Boyfriend, do you get it now? The other thing I think would be kind of funny, but like funny in your kind of darker humor, but trying to make a point, kind of like social commentary or satirical would be like, Dear White People, this is what you need to get. And it could be like a whole book on being a non-racist white asshole. So I've thought a little bit about that. I've also thought about that more as a blog series and not as a whole book. But so those are some ideas in like the nonfiction space. But I've dabbled in children's book manuscripts. I had one agent at a conference a couple years ago who said he'd look at a revise if I got around to it, and that project's been sitting on a shelf. So there's like all kinds of different avenues, and I'm just like so excited to have one book that I'm like, oh my gosh, well, if I did it once, I can do it again. Yay.
And then Allie, did you have anything coming up in January that you wanted to talk about?
Yes. So this is what's going to happen on my social media. So Facebook biz is at AY Berthiaume, and it's the same thing on Insta at AY Berthiaume.
Yeah, and we can link that in the notes too.
Perfect. So I'm going to post a picture of my Christmas tree, and it's going to be like an I Spy. So I'm going to say like, how many ornaments can you find that are like food or the color red or animals or whatever? And people comment, all right? So everybody comment how many they see, and anybody who guesses within like the range of 3 that's correct gets an automatic seat at a free webinar I'm going to do in January, and they get to bring a guest also for free. And it's going to be Breakout Bravery. That's going to be the name of the webinar, and we're going to spend an hour talking about how you can take a personal story and make it a powerful one. And there's going to be 3 prizes or bonuses, however you want to call it, in that webinar. So when you're there, I'll tell you what they are. You'll win, or somebody will win while they're there, so you have to be present to win. But the main thing is, this is in the spirit of giving. So if you are not really a writer, but you want to participate because you want to gift your seat and the +1 to someone else, I want people to participate. So this is all to just like create more bravery, more courage, more women telling their stories. So even if you're not the writer, you're not the woman with a story, but you know somebody who is, play, because you can give your seat away and you can give the +1 away.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Any last thoughts on the book?
On the book. Oh my gosh. Buy it.
There you go.
Go get it.
Oh, well, where can they get it?
Okay. So you can get it if you're local to Vermont, you can get it through Phoenix Books. Although they did tell me that even your other local independent bookstores, like you can search and they can usually order through. So if you like local, go local. But it's also in Barnes & Noble. It's on Amazon. There's an ebook version as well as a paperback version. And then people can also purchase through me at ayberthiaume.com/Dear Universe if they would like a signed copy.
Nice. Awesome. Well, like Julie said, we'll have all those direct links and contacts in the show notes if you're looking for Dear Universe. So
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Next up. All right, so Allie, since you're the guest, are you a Taylor Swift fan?
You know, I wasn't before, but more recently, okay, so here's the truth. I'm terrible at knowing singers and like their songs. Like, so I'll be like, oh, I like that song that goes, shake it off, and I won't have a clue who the hell it is, right? And so all of a sudden recently, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a whole bunch of songs that I love that are actually Taylor Swift, and I would have never known that, and I would never have claimed fandom. Because I'm never like, oh, this person and that song and whatever. I never know. I'm terrible.
So,
but you think you're a Taylor Swift song
I'm pretty sure I am. I'm pretty sure I am. Yeah.
And it's okay to be. Just throw that out.
Like, I'm not even like trying to be closeted about it. Like, I literally just didn't know.
So I don't know. She had a couple albums that I was just like checked out for. I think like when my kids were super little.
Julie, don't lie. We went to a Taylor Swift concert.
I didn't go, remember? I was moving that weekend, and then I had like poison ivy like going up my leg and fastly approaching the danger zone. I had to sell my ticket, but yes, we did have very expensive tickets to see Taylor Swift.
It was an awesome time. I was like, I remember going and like being like, I only know like 3 songs. This is gonna be awful. Let's just drink. And then we got there and I was like, I know every song, and it was the best time ever. So, but I forgot that you didn't go. Yeah.
But no, from then until I think she had like 2 albums between like then and now, and I don't think I really knew much from those. But I was obsessed with Folklore this summer, like listened on repeat as like working all summer. And she just announced today that tonight she's dropping a part 2 to Folklore called Evermore. So are we planning to listen? Who's in?
I mean, I won't be awake at midnight, but I'll listen tomorrow morning.
I'll listen at 7 a.m. tomorrow.
Yeah. Sorry, Taylor.
I hope my only fear is that she didn't put like all the good songs on Folklore, and now like it's gonna be like, oh, listening to it.
So I was looking into this a little more because I knew you were going to want me to like talk more about this, and I wanted to be able to offer something to the conversation. But have you been seeing about like these Easter eggs that she?
Yes, that's what she does apparently.
And her Taylor fans, or whatever they call themselves, Swifties or whatever they call themselves, they like find them in pictures, and then it's like linked to album songs. So Willow is one of the songs of this new album coming out, and the Easter egg that she put out was a picture on Instagram of her, and the pictures in the back of her were willow trees.
Mm.
And people were like,
yeah, they predict everything. But that's how everyone worked out that Betty was the name. A lot of time. No, they're crazy. And they worked out that Betty was the name of Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively's 3rd kid because of that song that had 3 names in it, and the other 2 were their older 2 kids. And then Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds came out and said, yes, our daughter is named Betty. She just puts like stuff in, and they love to try to figure out like which ex-boyfriend songs are about.
Well, that I would get behind.
Yeah, that's kind of fun.
I mean, because that's fun. There's also my curiosity would be maybe not about Easter eggs, but the ex-boyfriend thing would be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I didn't get why they called them Easter eggs. I guess because like you hide Easter eggs.
Well, yeah, I think that's it. Like, yeah, I would think of it as like little nuggets, but you're right. Okay. Easter eggs get hidden. That makes much more sense.
I guess so. So then also on Folklore, the song 13 was her grandfather's name. Now they found out that song 13 on Evermore is her grandmother's name.
Oh, so what is it? Where's 13?
Marjorie.
Count. Okay.
I'm assuming.
So what was her grandfather's name? I can't think of what. 13
I don't remember. I read the article like 4 hours ago.
Because I know there was one from her grandfather's perspective, but I can't think of what it was named. That was the one where they were talking about like, I guess he fought in World War II, I think. And she was talking about like,
I don't think I got that far through Folklore. But
I did.
I'll give Evermore a listen tomorrow morning.
Yeah. I'm going to start with Folklore.
You should. It's really good. It's like moody and a little bit more adult. And how do you say that guy's name that she does the duet with? Bon Iver.
Bon Iver.
Yeah.
Bon Iver. Bon Iver. Now it's coming out weird. I don't know.
Whatever. It's good. Give it a listen.
Yeah.
All right. So also in the past couple days, they've announced like 1 million streaming partnerships. Mm-hmm. And by 1 million, I mean 3. So apparently Prime bought the rights to Jessica Simpson's book, which Chelsea, I know you read and you had like rave reviews for her.
I really liked it. Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by her, you know, like we've talked about, like just openness about being a mom and just your journey as a woman. And I was very surprised by Jessica Simpson's book. So I'm interested to see like how they adapt it to.
I know.
Like,
I'm wondering if it's going to be like, did she say there's going to be 2 shows adapted from it, I think?
I didn't see, I just saw like her announcement saying Amazon and that they're taking it on.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see if it's like a comedy, drama, like what it is. And I'm also super interested to see who plays her, or if it's just going to be like a character based on her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could see Margot Robbie, but I think they'll probably go younger.
Yeah, and I don't think they'll get someone that like high level for.
That's true. That might be a little bit of a reach.
Allie, have you read Jessica Simpson's memoir?
No, but when Chelsea was just talking about it, like it being written and being really vulnerable and brave, like I'd be curious to know if she wrote it or if she worked with the ghostwriter. But that's because of my writing.
She actually wrote it.
Really?
I mean, I'm sure she worked with some, but
the whole point of ghosting is that you get to put your name on it and you get to say that you wrote it, but like you didn't really write it. And that's like a lot of celebrity books is usually that they're ghostwritten.
I feel like based on the way it was written and having watched every episode of the Newlyweds on TV, it was her.
Well, it could have been a really good ghostwriter that really like captured.
Yeah, actually, I don't.
It's also been a collaboration, but she got to put her name on it.
Yeah, Chelsea, do you remember in Jane the Virgin when Jane was going to ghostwrite
what's her name's book?
Petra?
Yeah.
I was gonna call her by her like real human name, not her actress character name. Yeah, they would like meet and she would tell her the stories. And then
she was like, no.
So like it could have been like a close collaboration.
I mean, there's nothing taking away from her story, regardless of who wrote it. Like, you know, you're a badass, you're a badass. That's the end of it. Like, it doesn't really matter who wrote the story of you being a badass. So you're saying that the show that's going to be about her, though, is not like a true docuseries. It's more like a fictional, like, reenactment.
It sounds like they're going to, use the book to create fictional stories. Is what
okay, cool.
Like. So I'm interested to see how it plays out. If it's comedy, if it's drama, if it's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
I would feel like with her personality, it would have to be somewhere in the middle at least.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Tonight, the Kardashians announced a partnership with Hulu. So they had just canceled Keeping Up with the Kardashians just a few weeks ago, right? Which
because now they're going to do Keeping Up with Hulu.
Yeah, Keeping Up with Hulu. So I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know if they're just totally bringing the show over or if it's going to be different shows for different members of the family, but everyone is all about the streaming, I think, since COVID, right? Like we're all just sitting on our couches streaming everything.
Drinking and eating our weight in peanut butter, Nutella, and cupcake Prosecco.
Yep.
Well, and it's funny because like our kids aren't used to regular TV anymore and waiting for
Get rid of these commercials.
I know. So like tonight, Jackson, who's my son, who's 4, we were like our Amazon Fire Stick like stopped working. We had to reset it. And I'm like, I'm not like going through all resetting the Amazon Fire Stick right now. You're just gonna watch normal TV. And I put on Disney Junior and it was like Blaze and the monster trucks or something, which he's not really a fan of. And he was like, I don't want this one. Put on Paw Patrol. I'm like, well, Paw Patrol's not on right now. He's like, yes, it is. I'm like, no, it's not. And then when it went on commercial, he was like, well, what is this? I want to watch like this show now. I'm like, you can't have like immediate access to everything. We've created monsters.
And it's not just TV though. Like, so my son wants to constantly be on my phone listening to music, loves music, which is fine. Great. Music. Awesome. But I love Christmas music because I'm a dork and I'm just like love Christmas music. And so if I'm in the car, which is limited these days, I want to make sure that I can listen to the radio station that is just playing Christmas music from like, 24/7 from Thanksgiving until Christmas. And we were on the way to my parents, and he's like, why are they talking so much? You know, they were like playing games and like doing all of their sponsored ads and like all this stuff. And I was like, they'll be done talking soon. Like, it will be fine. No, I just want them. And he's just like losing it in the back seat. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, if only you grew up when we grew up. Like basically our version of like, I walked to school in the snow 3 miles and back is going to be like, I had to sit through commercials.
Yeah.
I had dial-up internet. I had to, like, call waiting. You know, like,
what even is that? I don't even remember.
It's so crazy to me, like how things have changed and how far we've come, and yet how far away we've gotten at the same time from like just principles of like patience and, you know, delayed gratification and, you know, the little things.
Yeah.
For sure.
So the final streaming partnership, this was maybe 2 to 3 days ago, they announced that Warner Brothers is going to release every single one of their 2021 movies on HBO Max.
What does that mean? Like what?
So like
what,
no theater releases.
so what does Warner Brothers make? I feel like
I don't
Warner
know
Brothers,
that.
like,
That's why they're giving it to somebody else.
Animaniacs, they make Animaniacs.
So that's what I'm thinking. Like when you say Warner Brothers, I think of like all the cartoons that like were on.
I think they're probably beyond Looney Tunes at this point, but that's what I was thinking. I'm thinking that there's nothing really all that great, which is why they're giving it to somebody else to stream for them.
Well, no,
Like,
if you Google this partnership, there's like big uproar in the biz. So I think that they might make
That's how they refer to it.
The biz. I'm at a point in my life where I only know like Pixar. Like,
yeah.
Disney,
Pixar, DreamWorks, Illumination.
Yeah. But no, this is like big drama. There's people like slamming them, like execs from other studios.
Which one? Slamming HBO or slamming Warner Brothers?
Warner Brothers for doing
Okay.
it. So I guess, you know, you've probably got your like Universals and Searchlight. Is that a thing? I don't know what studios are. What are these?
What's the one?
I don't know. All I can think of though is that like they're writing every email with like, that's all folks.
That's what I think too with Warner Brothers. Didn't they make like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and like all the CW stuff? Wasn't that Warner Brothers?
WB was a channel, right? Like old school channel 17 was WB, and then CW bought WB, right?
Oh, why did I think CW had something to do with Canada?
No, that's CBC is Canada, right? Like that's what Schitt's Creek was on.
Yes. But no, so CW, I think you're right. I think
CW is like
CW.
Riverdale. I have the CW app because I used to watch Riverdale on it.
Yeah.
I used to watch Smallville.
So when you were saying
Riverdale.
When you were saying like all Warner Brothers stuff is going to be on HBO Max, I kind of got excited like that I'll be able to watch all those old CW shows on HBO.
Oh,
So
I don't know. But no, this is their
Oh.
new movie releases. Not theater releasing anything.
Maybe we could write to somebody though and say we don't really want that. What we want is CW on HBO, not WB.
Yeah. It's like One Tree Hill and Buffy and
But aren't all they on like Hulu? No? I just started Heart of Dixie on Netflix.
why?
Because I finished Virgin River and people were saying that it's the same show, and spoiler alert, it is the same show.
Oh my gosh. So it's showing up on my recently watched list on Netflix, and I was like, why is this on? And then I remembered that I had given my parents my Netflix account, and I was like, no, they're screwing up my search results.
Yeah. Now my
Now you're
queue
gonna
is
get
so
like
wrong.
targeted, like because
You're
you
gonna be like, because you liked Heart of Dixie or whatever. You're also gonna like all this other stuff.
Well, this is
So
actually a
much time
great segue. This is a great segue to our next part, right, Jewel?
no.
I'm just saying.
Next up is what was on the blog.
After that.
But after that, we'll talk about TV shows.
All right, take it away, Julie. This is all you.
on the blog this week was my gift guide, which is all things I either have in love or want Mike to get me.
Is the bra something you have or something that you want Mike to get you?
No, I have. That's my favorite sports bra. I wear it all the time, and it's from Dick's, and it was cheap AF.
Cool.
Because I don't know about anyone else, but I haven't worn a real bra in a really long time.
I wore a bra for this occasion, and then I realized that was stupid because you can only see me from my neck up.
From like here up, yeah.
I've worn real bras. I've had to go into work.
Hugs.
Not for the past week or two, though.
So Chelsea, since you read my gift guide, what was your favorite thing on it?
I was really interested in the Eat Feel Fresh cookbook, and I do like that teapot, and I am in the market for one. However, the color doesn't match my color scheme.
So that color is the color of like all of my like pots that are on like the top of my cabinets and my mixer, my stand mixer. But that was like the hotly debated thing everywhere we shared this post. People were sharing either like cheaper or more expensive versions of that teapot, which I was like, kind of when I put it on there, it's like a $60 teapot. And I was like, oh, that seems like a lot for a tea kettle.
Yeah.
But then someone else shared a link that was like $75 for a tea kettle. And then enter the electric tea kettle.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I was like, do I need one of those?
I know, I'm like, should I get an electric tea kettle?
I love electric tea kettles for the efficiency, but I don't know. There is something super nostalgic for me with like a traditional key kettle. A key kettle. That's how many glasses in I.
I first noticed the electric tea kettle. I didn't sure I was going to say that wrong. When I was watching Dr. Foster. Did you watch that one, Chelsea? No, me and Heather watched Dr. Foster, but she had an electric.
No, I did watch it. I'm sorry, I did watch it.
Yeah, and she was always like clicking it on, and it's done in like a minute. Not that like the stove takes that much longer. Like I feel like that's not
right.
It's not like a 20-minute process to boil water. It's like 5 tops.
It also depends on like how frequent you're using it. Like, so my day job, not that I want to talk a lot about that, but there was an electric tea kettle in the kitchen. It was getting used so much and not being appropriately cleaned that it was just like the deposits on the bottom. And it was like I feel like there's something like almost cleaner for some reason about like the traditional tea kettle on the stove that, you know, you're just going to like boil the water every so often. It's not going to.
I also think I like leaving it on the stove, whereas electric, you need to give up more counter space. And we've had the counter space argument. So
that's what I was just going to say.
Right.
Yes. So we've had this debate within our group chat of counter space and is it worth it? And that is where the electric teapot loses for me, because why would I take up counter space when I could do it on the stove and not have to worry about that?
I think that's where I'm at with it too.
Yeah. And when you're sick of looking at it on the stove, you shove it into the Tupperware cabinet. Where everything's in disarray.
This is just 100% on our stove.
Right. So like you don't even see it.
And I never need 4 burners, so it's fine.
Right. Oh my gosh. So I want to know about the slippers.
Okay, those are LL Bean. I do know that Mike ordered me LL Bean slippers for Christmas, but I'm not sure if he saw those before he ordered. I also got the book of Hygge, and I just haven't really started it. I've read like the first chapter. So I know that's coming. And I ordered and customized my own FabFit Fun Box, which is coming. Mike is going to intercept it and wrap it for me.
So this gift guide worked out.
It worked out very well for me.
I'm so glad that you said that word, because I was looking at it going, I'm not even gonna try, because
We've had many conversations about that word here. It's come up before. I will note, I do want to point out the Cozy Core leggings from Old Navy are super cheap, like $25, which is really cheap for leggings, right? But they're so thick, which is imperative if you're walking in the winter in Vermont. So like I went for a walk today.
Well, if you refuse to wear actual pants.
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, it's not imperative that you have them if you're in Vermont. It's imperative you're in Vermont and you refuse to wear actual pants when you go outside to walk.
Wait, what's the definition of actual pants?
Wouldn't you wear like workout leggings to go for a walk though? No?
Wait, I need to know what your actual definition of pants are.
Yeah.
Leggings.
No, they're really good. They're really warm because they're like almost like feel like flannel on the inside, and then they feel like leggings on the outside, and they're super thick.
You know what I heard? Swamp crotch. That's what I heard.
In the summer, yes, but in 32-degree weather when you're taking a walk around your neighborhood, like
All right. I can handle that.
take off these COVID-19 pounds. They kept me warm. That's
COVID-19 could take on like a whole other meaning. Like when we get through it, it's going to be like, did you put on the COVID-19? Yeah, I sure did.
I made
No,
myself
I didn't have it. I just put it on.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next up. All the things. All right, so I threw in here Allie's book because I finished it this past week and Chelsea started it this past week.
Yes.
So we can.
Sorry, we're quarantining here, so I didn't get to get through it as planned.
Yes. So we both wanted to recommend that highly.
Yeah.
And then I also added Big Sky. Been watching that on Hulu. I think it's on regular TV and I watch it next day Hulu. This is the one that I said in our group chat, Chelsea, that sounds like it was written by middle schoolers. The dialogue sounds like middle school girls wrote it.
Is that a very airbrushed Ryan Philippe?
That is.
Oh my gosh, I was just going to ask the same thing. And I was like, why does he look younger than he did when he was younger?
Here's the thing, though. He does not look great in it. They could not airbrush, like, while moving.
They couldn't airbrush reality.
Right. They could not airbrush reality.
Huh.
So he doesn't look fantastic. And there's a very big surprise at the end of episode 1 that will knock your socks off.
Like really, like enough to want to watch it, or don't bother?
Okay,
We're like, if that was sarcasm.
We're like, okay, no, I was really surprised at the end of episode 1.
Even though they were all talking like middle school dialogue.
Yes, especially the blonde one up top, that's his wife. Everything she says, I'm like, no one talks like that. Like, I don't care. They're supposed to be in Montana, I think. Even in Montana, I guarantee no one talks like that. She just sounds like.
In Montana.
But it's intriguing enough to keep watching.
No, the first episode was really good and super surprised. Second episode, pretty good. Third episode, I was still, is this really going on? Last episode, I was like yelling at the TV, like, that would not happen. This is so stupid. So,
It's on here so that we feel good about ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll keep watching it because me and Mike are watching it, and it's probably only like 10 episodes. I can't imagine it's like a 23 episode season.
God, I hope not.
Well, unless it's like a 10 episode and it feels like 23.
We're almost there because we're at 4 and I'm like debating if I'm going to watch it this week. Okay, the last thing I threw in there was not another true crime podcast because I love it. I love the hosts. Danny Murphy and Sarah Levine, and they're hysterical both as individual follows on Instagram. And it's like, okay, when I first got into true crime podcasts, I was not all about like funny. Like I thought, oh, these people are like murdered. Like, let's not be funny. But they also cover things like pyramid schemes. They have so many funny inside jokes about like Hillary Duff and like essential oils. And so I would, if you're looking for something light that's also about true crime, give it a listen. And it's put out by Betches, and anyone that watches this regularly knows we talk about Betches all the time and love everything they do. Right.
Oh my gosh, so funny. It actually makes me think, have you listened to the I've only done a few episodes and I still can't tell if I like it or not, the My Favorite Murderer?
I have not listened to My Favorite Murder. I have a few true crime podcasts that I listen to every week. I listen to Truth and Justice, Missing Mara Mary, Sinisterhood. Sinisterhood is hysterical. Not because like what's happening. I feel like I keep having to say that. The hosts are so funny. They're both like from Texas, and the stuff they talk about just makes me like crack up, but they're really respectful too.
So, like, I had a friend that recommended My Favorite Murderer because he read a book and then he started listening to the podcast. There must have been a book based off the podcast or whatever. And he was like, this is like totally up your alley because you have like that kind of like black humor, dark humor, about real life crap, and I think that you're really going to like it. He also knew that I was like into Criminal Minds, and I've definitely got like a true crime or like murder mystery, PI kind of like, personal interest or whatever. But then I was like, well, I was listening to it and I was kind of like, I feel like that crossed the line and I want to feel like that's funny, but also like from a perspective of the victim's family, feel like that is just awful. And so it was like super interesting if you could get by some of the kind of like, I don't know if crude or curt, I'm not sure which word was kind of like somewhere in there, commentary, and it could focus more on like the interesting facts of the cases. But it was definitely like, oh, like I want to be interested, but I'm also not interested. So the hosts of My Favorite Murderer end up promoting and talking about Michelle McNamara, who writes the book I'll Be Gone in the Dark, which is that really popular true crime book that's about the Night Stalker who had like 4 other names as a serial assailant and murderer.
Is she the one that was married to Patton Oswalt?
Yes.
Yes.
And so I'll Be Gone in the Dark ends up this fabulous HBO docuseries. I haven't read the book yet, but the docuseries was amazing. And one of the My Favorite Murderer podcast hosts is like featured throughout, like talking about how she was inspired by McNamara's investigative skills and what she was doing. And because, when Michelle McNamara got started, I think she was mostly in like the blogosphere space and like chatting in threads. And, it was kind of predating the podcast thing. And so this woman now with this like, all kinds of crazy followers is like looking up to this woman who wrote this book that's finally out now. The HBO series is finally out now. So just, a really cool tie-in between the true crime podcast bent and then this other docuseries that I watched recently that's absolutely fabulous. And then because I have that kind of streak that I just love, like that kind of storyline, How to Get Away with Murder, it's phenomenal. Some of the best TV writing I've ever seen. Viola Davis is a powerhouse. Binge watch that like start to finish on Netflix, like to a detriment to my health, because I should have been in bed. I should not have just kept pressing like one more episode. But I just couldn't put it down. Like I just flew through the series and was so bummed when I found out that it was not coming back. But
where can you watch that one? Is that Netflix?
I was getting that one on Netflix.
Netflix, gotcha.
But definitely, like you could tell, like towards the end, you're like, how much more are you going to be able to write on this storyline? Like, so you needed to come to an end, but gosh, so heartbreaking. And then I threw up Untamed by Glennon Doyle because it's like number 1 on my must-read list. Like now, like should have done it 3 weeks ago or whatever. But it's definitely high on my list. And Elizabeth Gilbert is one of my other favorite authors. And City of Girls, while not this year, I think it was 2019, was a really amazing fiction novel for a period piece with like the women's like focus and just different women's experiences for that time period. So I'm gonna go.
Well, thanks for coming on, Allie. We had so much fun learning about the book and your process and chatting about celeb gossip with you.
Thank you for inviting me. It was so much fun to be here. I'm sorry I have to jump off, but I know you guys get it. So enjoy the rest of the conversation. Bye.
Bye. So to finish up today's show, we're going to go over our fire memes. So Julie, what was your favorite meme of the week?
Okay, so my favorite meme of the week was, quick question, is it for fuck's sake or for fuck's sake? It's a work email, so it has to sound professional.
But also, which one is it?
I actually don't know.
I like had money on that you were gonna research or look up which one it actually is.
You should probably look that up. I'll check Grammarly.
And then Allie had shared one with us, COVID testing in the rear. What happened to the nasal swabs?
I thought that actually made me laugh out loud.
Yeah, same. And mine was, if I flirted with you this year, it doesn't count. I thought we were about to die.
Are you flirting with people, Chelsea?
I thought we were about to die, Julie. But that's all for this week of Mom Chats. We were so excited to have our guest Allie with us. So thanks for coming on. Be sure to check out her book, Dear Universe, and the show notes will have all the information you need to do so. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.